if my hair looks crazy, that's because I washed it tonight and it just kind of has a mind of its own. But welcome to day 4 of the Ominous October Readathon. So we're picking up right where we left off from the last reading vlog. I didn't really do too much today. It's like 9:30, 9:40 at night right now. I don't really know. I went to the library, I returned 5 books, and I picked up one book, Burn the Negative by Josh Winning, to add to my super large pile of library books that I may or may not get to in October. And all day I have just been reading Cackle by Rachel Harrison. I have just gotten to page 160, which is just over the halfway mark, and I am enjoying it so far. I've said it before, I don't think I have to say it again, but here I am anyways. I like Rachel Harrison. I like the things that she writes, and I feel like everything she writes kind of has like very, very similar feels. The main characters are all very similar. We're following typically a woman in her late 20s, maybe she's in her 30s. She is going through a formative period in her life, and then she starts to deal with some sort of horror element that oftentimes will border on supernatural. So this one does have to do with witches. We are following this woman named Annie. She just turned 30, and she also just got out of a very long-term relationship. She was with this guy for 8 years before they decided to end things, and she basically packed up and moved to this very, very small town, like one of those small towns where everybody knows everybody, and it's like one street that has all the shops on it. That's kind of the vibe. And she befriends this woman named Sophie, and everybody in the town knows Sophie, but it's kind of starting to feel like maybe they are afraid of her in the way that they speak of this woman and the way that they act when she is around, and just very like walking on eggshells, like don't want to say anything bad about Sophie because there's something else going on here. And we know from the synopsis, so it's not a spoiler to say like that this woman is a witch, and she's definitely got some powers and different things that we are learning more and more about, our main character is learning more about. I do think it's interesting so far, but I'm kind of hoping that it starts to pick up a little bit more. Like I feel like nothing super crazy has happened, but maybe this last little bit will go really crazy, and I'm really curious to see where the story takes our main character and what this relationship is going to become, because this is really like Annie's only friend is Sophie, but then it's also the same that like Sophie's really only friend is Annie, because everybody else in the town is kind of afraid of her and doesn't really want to like interact with her outside of just like polite like courtesies. So I'm wondering if it's going to be like our main character maybe becoming a witch herself, or some big falling out is going to happen between the two of them as she maybe uncovers like a hidden agenda that Sophie has and unravels some dark secrets. I am curious. I honestly don't have too much to say about it right now. Like there's nothing really about this book that is standing out very strongly to me, but I am like enjoying it and intrigued enough to see where it goes, so I'm just gonna leave it there. I'm using my new Aardvark bookmark. It is so freaking cool. You can't even see, but it's like, you see the light reflecting on the pages. So cool. As far as movies, we watched, what was it called? Hold Your Breath tonight with Sarah Paulson. This is like a Dust Bowl horror movie. I think I'm gonna give it 3 stars if I was going to give it a rating. There were things that I enjoyed about it. I liked that it was kind of this like exploration of mental health and like mental illness, and also like motherhood and having a mental illness while you're a mother and you have these people that you have to watch over. And then also like the setting of it was really interesting, like being in the Dust Bowl era and always having to worry about, you know, being sick from breathing in dust all the time, these big dust storms that they had. And then there's also like these very a lot of tension within like the town and the different people that live there, and everybody's being affected by this thing. But then our main character is also going through her like other thing. It was interesting. There are things I liked about it. I liked the direction that the story took, but it wasn't my like absolute favorite. I think that it could have been a little bit better, but I didn't hate it. So that's where we're at for, what is it, day 4. I'm going to keep reading this before bed. I'm not sure if I'll quite finish it before bed, but I'm hoping to get pretty close to finishing it. Either way, I will see you guys tomorrow because I will probably not do another update before I fall asleep. Hi, welcome to my kitchen. Welcome to day 5. I'm currently making a beef burger for dinner. I'm gonna eat that with some potato salad because that sounds really yummy. But I figured while I'm cooking this, I would talk to you guys about books and give you guys my day 5 update. Hopefully this doesn't start like popping really loud. Anyway, I got home from work today and I went on a nice little walk outside because the fitness center at my apartments where I normally go and I walk on the treadmill and do other things is closed right now because they did get flooded during the hurricane. So I went for a walk outside and I listened to the audiobook for Stolen Tongues. I finished my reread. So second time reading it, first time listening on audio. And I just unfortunately wasn't a really big fan of the audiobook narrator. I know I mentioned that in the last reading vlog for the readathon, but I still enjoyed the story. And it's really funny because I always talk about like Stolen Tongues being one of my favorite horror books, but it's not a 5-star for me. Even the first time I read it, it wasn't a 5-star, although there are a lot of things that I really enjoy about it, and it is one of the first books that I read that actually creeped me out while reading it. I think the specific thing about that book is it just has a lot of components that personally really freak me out, and that's why I enjoy it. So I think those creepy parts still stood the test of time. Like, they still freaked me out a little bit during this reread, but I think it was definitely less so with the audiobook because I wasn't a fan of the narrator. The only reason that it's not a 5-star for me is that I feel like the resolution, the ending of it is just like too easy. Obviously I can't get too far into it without spoilers, but like this creature is like tormenting these people and like following them around, and then the way that they resolve it and get this creature to leave them alone, I just feel like seems so easy. Realistically, I feel like it should be harder than that to get this thing to leave them alone, but I don't know. This is really sizzling now. So that's my book update number 1. Number 2, I'm still reading Cackle, but I've just got about like 60 pages before the end, so I'm going to finish this tonight after my dinner, or maybe I'll read it while I'm eating dinner. Either way, I'm going to finish it tonight. I am still enjoying it. There are a lot of really fun things. Wow, that is getting loud. Anyways, there are a lot of really fun like elements, witchy elements. There's also this really fun inclusion of spiders, which I'm really enjoying. I do like spiders, so this has been really fun for me. But like nothing really crazy has happened, so I'm really wondering what's going to happen within the last 60 pages, where the story is going to go, and how things are going to wrap up. I'm intrigued, but I'm also like what's really happening when you think about the book, you know? I've also been reading The Vile Thing We Created a little bit today. I'm 25% of the way through that one now, which I think my last update was in the last vlog, and I said I was like 15% of the way, so I did make a little bit of progress, but I am going to continue reading that tonight after I finish Cackle, and I don't know if I'll finish it tonight because I still have like 300 pages, but I will definitely finish it tomorrow. And then that leaves me with 2 books left still for this readathon. So I have my nonfiction, which I'm really excited for, and I also just realized that there's like little picture inserts in here, which I think is so freaking fun. And this one isn't very short, and I don't know, something in my brain is just telling me that this is going to be like kind of a lighter read, like just more fun to read, because it's going to be talking about horror movies, and I'm sure I'm going to be familiar with a lot of the horror movies, so it's not like a nonfiction that I really have to devote a lot of like brain power to. So I am definitely excited. I will be starting this one probably tomorrow, and then I still have to read Rotten Tommy, which is the group read, which hopefully some of you guys were able to read that with us. But I'm not super worried. Hello, she's getting loud again. I'm not super worried if I don't have that one finished by the time the readathon ends. I will definitely be starting it during the readathon. But if for some reason I don't finish it by the time the readathon ends, I'm not too worried because the live show I purposely scheduled for after the readathon, so I would have plenty of time to read it and get my thoughts in order and figure out like what I want to talk about. I'm a little bit nervous because I've only ever done one live stream, and that was with Cliff on his channel, so he was hosting it. But this is like mine. Like I have to figure out like what we're going to talk about with this book, and I'm a little bit nervous, so please be patient with me. The battery's low. Should I switch? Let me switch it out real quick. The package said to cook this burger covered, but I think that was too much because it's like slightly burnt. I was just trying to follow instructions, okay? But let me tell y'all, okay? If you like hot sauce, and especially if you like truffle, this is what you need to try. This is Melinda's black truffle hot sauce. It's literally so good, but I only ever eat it on pizza and on burgers. And when I eat it on burgers, like this is my go-to, okay? This sauce plus barbecue sauce plus pickles plus onions and sometimes plus jalapenos. But if I do jalapenos, they need to be grilled jalapenos with grilled onions, and it's just so good. Definitely if you like hot things, and especially if you like truffle, then you need to try this because it's freaking delicious. So that's my burger recipe for the night. Also, I feel like with this like readathon and these like vlogs, I've been a lot more like chit-chatty and talking about a lot of other things. But I don't know, do you guys like that? Do you like more chatty vlogs, or do you like when I just like talk about books and nothing else? Because like that's fine too, but I can talk if you guys want me to talk about other things and give some life updates. I think it's kind of fun to talk about different things that are going on. I think that is pretty much everything that I've wanted to say though, so I'm going to eat my food and do some more reading. I will give you guys an update later. I'll probably come back and update you once I finish Cackle, and then like I said, I want to read more of The Vile Thing We Created, so I'll let you guys know how that's going once I get a little bit further into it. I am really enjoying it so far, so I just don't have a lot to say because I'm still so early in the book, but I will definitely come back and let you guys know how that one's going. Hello, I'm here for one more final update before I go to bed. It's literally like 9:30 and I'm struggling to stay awake. I have no idea why. I'm just like so exhausted for some reason. Anyways, I finished Cackle. I wanted to let it sink in and really think about my feelings towards it. I think I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. Like there were a lot of things that I liked about it, but I think overall like it wasn't anything crazy. Like it wasn't something that I'm going to rave about. Oh my gosh, this book was so amazing. Like it was good, but like I don't know. I feel like I can understand the people that really love it, but then I can also understand the people that didn't really enjoy it because like not a lot really happens. We're just following our main character and then her friendship with this woman and then her, you know, starting sort of a new life on her own after leaving this relationship, and it's about her like figuring out what she wants in life and figuring out how to stand up for herself and create the life that she wants and not just conform to what she thinks people want from her. And I feel like it's just kind of, I don't know, but there were fun elements. Like I liked the witchy, the magic elements, and I liked her story and her journey. And then like I said, we also have this cute little spider. His name is Ralph and he's freaking adorable. I love him. That was definitely my favorite part of the book, was Ralph. Like I love him so much. Like I wish I had a little spider that just like could sleep in a little cereal box and I could feed him like dead flies and stuff like they do in this book. Like that is so freaking cute. It was definitely a perfect like spooky season read. Once again, those very like warm, cozy vibes, and it's just more of like a fiction book about this woman going through this transitional period, but it's also, you know, a little bit witchy. So overall, 3.5 stars for Cackle. I'm really glad that I read it. It was good, but I was waiting for it to be great. Then I've been reading The Vile Thing We Created, which doesn't have a cover on my Kindle, and I am where am I? 42% of the way through. I just got to this part 2 and baby makes 3. So I mentioned this briefly in the last vlog, but we basically have this couple, Ian and Lola, and they are in their 30s. All of their friends have children and they are finding themselves excluded from this friend group because their friends think that they can't really relate because they don't have kids. So they decide to just take the natural next step in their relationship and get pregnant and have a baby. But weird things are happening. The baby, I think, might be the Antichrist. And it's just been very strange. There have definitely been some strange things occurring right now. But I feel like that is really interesting in itself because Lola is having all these physical symptoms of like intense pain and just like crazy flare-ups of like vomiting and nausea to the point where like she physically collapses from the pain that she's in. She's having bleeding. She is incontinent of her bladder. She has just gotten to a point where she is having like paralysis in her lower body, and every time that they seek help and she goes to see the doctor, they always say, "Oh, that's normal. Your tests came back normal. It's fine. Everything's fine. Just go home and rest." And I feel like that in itself is speaking a lot about healthcare, especially healthcare with women. Not to mention Lola is a black woman and the different experiences that black women have, especially when it comes to pregnancy and childbirth, and the mortality rates are much higher for black women when it comes to childbirth, and so that's definitely something that's being spoken about a lot, and I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. And overall, like, I really like the story so far. I like the characters, I like the way that it's written, I like that we are very like involved in their lives day to day, and I just think they're really fun and likable characters, and I'm really curious and intrigued to see where it goes. I'm really liking the horror elements, and like the weird things that are happening are just like, so it's like on the surface it doesn't seem so strange, and that's why the characters are not alarmed by it, but being the reader and knowing that something is to come, it's like very, very unnerving, and I think that's just going to pick up in the weirdness and the strangeness as the story progresses. And I think we are getting closer to that point where they are going to have this baby, and I'm really, really excited to see where it goes. So I'm going to read a little bit more before I go to bed, and then I will pick up tomorrow with another update for you guys. Welcome to my day 6 update. I had a pretty boring day today. Went to work, came home, went on my walk. On my walk, I started my horror movie reread. I read The Ark earlier this year, loved it, 5 stars. I've heard nothing but good things about the audiobook since it released, so I wanted to pick that up, and obviously like I had a great time reading the book the first time, so I wanted to read it again and try out the audiobook because so many people say it's so good, it's very well produced, and I would definitely agree with that, especially like the screenplay parts of the book are, I think, they're just like so fun the way that they're done in the audiobook, like the way that the person is like reading the lines off and then they'll like stumble over their words or like go back and like repeat things and try out like different tones as they're like practicing lines, and then you can hear like the pages flipping, and there's different like sound effects for different scenes within the screenplay, and I just think it's really, really fun and really enhancing the reading experience. So if you want to pick that one up on audio, I would definitely recommend, whether you've read it or not, that's definitely a good way to experience the story. So while the audiobook itself has been widely loved, the book itself I think is one of those books that, from what I've seen, like is either people give it 1 star and hate it with a passion, or they give it 5 stars and love it with a passion. And luckily I was one of those 5-star people. This book just like really, really worked so well for me, and so I'm having a great time with that reread. Once again, that's not like an official Ominous October TBR read, but since I'm reading it during the readathon, I figured I'd give you guys an update. I wanted to do a quick little bingo board check-in. That's the main reason for this update. So let me pull up my bingo board right now because I crossed off a couple more things. So I crossed off post a picture of your current read on Instagram, which I did actually twice because I posted a picture of All Hallows and then I posted a picture of Cackle when I was reading Cackle. And that one is also where I crossed off read a book with occult elements was Cackle. And then mount your outfit of the day to your current read. I did yesterday and then I totally forgot to like take a picture or like film or anything. But I was reading Cackle yesterday and the outfit that I actually wore to work matched the book cover, which was kind of fun. I had green pants on and I had a black and white top. It wasn't the exact shade of green as the book cover, but close enough, you know, all of the main components were there. But I just forgot to mention it yesterday and then like I said, I forgot to take a picture, but I promise you, I'm telling the truth. You can take my word for it. So right now I am working on my last thing in the main bingo board, which is a book that has been on your TBR longer than a year. And then also a book 400 plus pages on, which I know I've talked many a time. Where the frick is my Kindle? It's over here. The Vile Thing Recreated. I'm still reading. I am 74% of the way through. Kindle says I have an hour and 25 minutes left, so I am going to be finishing this tonight. I'm still enjoying it, but I'm also, like, I feel like it's moving kind of slowly at this point. I don't know. I feel like the pacing's off, maybe. Like, not a whole lot is really happening. We are now, I think, where their child is 5 years old, and there's nothing, like, outright like horror happening, but it's just like anytime something bad happens to these people, the child is there, and then they're also having weird dreams and like seeing weird things. But other than that, it's not really like very heavy on the horror. I don't know if it's gonna pick up in this last 25%. That is the cat playing with her little bird toy, which she loves, which my mom got her. So I don't know if my mom watches my videos, but if you are watching this, Molly loves that little cat, that little bird toy. I just feel like something else needs to happen, and you know, with being over 400 pages, I feel like there's just not really enough happening from page to page, chapter to chapter, in order for it to justify how long it is. Although I'm still like enjoying it and I'm intrigued and I want to know where it's going, but I just feel like it's taking so long to get there, and it's just, there's so many stretches of like nothing really happening, and then it's like, oh, and then they saw this weird thing, and then like nothing happened, and now it's like 3 years later. And that's another thing I think that this book would benefit from, like having a little thing at the beginning of the chapter to tell us like where we are, because it doesn't really tell you when there's a time jump. It just kind of like starts off like any other chapter, and then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, like the kid's like 3 now. And I wish that, you know, there was a clearer way that that was depicted, that we were jumping ahead in time. Other than that, it's starting to feel a little bit repetitive right now, so I'm hoping it picks up. I'm going to finish it. We'll see. I will come back once I finish that one, give you guys my final update. I'm sorry, this vlog has not been very exciting because I've been working this whole week versus the last vlog where I had some days off so I could do things like bake and whatever else I did in that vlog. I don't even know. That's my update for now. I'm going to finish my book and I will see you guys later tonight. I know I'm in the exact same spot, but it is a little bit later. I did finish my book. I'm here for my final day 6 update before I go to bed. I'm really sad because I didn't like this book as much as I thought I would. I don't know why. Just like ever since I added it to my TBR, I was like, I'm gonna love this book so much, and then I put it on my 2024 hard TBR and I was like, I'm gonna love this book so much, and then I put it on my readathon TBR, and just everything, I was like hyping it up so much in my head. I just thought it was gonna be something that I really love, but I don't know. I think I'm gonna give it 3 stars. It just wasn't like as good as in my head. I expected it to be really good. Like I said, I already talked to you guys about a few little things. Like, it did start to get repetitive. I feel like the big issue with this book was the pacing of it, because for so long, like, nothing really happens and we're just like following this couple and it's kind of like the same thing over and over again. Then they have a kid and then it's the same thing over and over again. And it's really not until like literally the last 5% of the book, because I remember like looking on Kindle and it said I had like 20 minutes left and we were just then getting to the point where our main character is like starting to investigate what is actually going on. And I'm like, how is anything going to successfully wrap up in 20 minutes? And I don't feel like it did. Like, we definitely got an explanation of like what was happening, so it's not like it was ambiguous or open-ended or anything. It just felt super rushed, and I feel like the pacing was just off. Like, I wish that we got him looking into everything earlier on in the book so we could follow his like process of investigating it and spend more time on that and learning like about what is actually happening here. Obviously, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but like the explanation for everything that was going on with the kid is something that I feel like needed to have more time spent on it and to be delved into a little bit more, because I feel like it just wasn't satisfying. Like, there are so many questions that I still have about what happened and what was really going on in the book, and I will never get to actually know. And I don't know. I don't even really know what to say beyond that. I just think that there was a pacing issue here and more time needed to be spent on the actual horror and the actual like discovering what was going on and learning about it and telling the reader about this thing and like giving us more information and more of an explanation rather than just the last 5%. He's like, oh yeah, what's going on? And then he figures out what's going on, and then like all of a sudden everything solves itself and is fine. Another thing too, I did mention that I liked Lola and Ian as characters and I liked like their couple, their relationship, but after a certain point I was like, these people are just like not very smart, because like they don't ever at any point try to get like help for their kid. The second anything goes wrong with Lola, they go to therapy and they get like treatment right away. Cool, great. But their kid starts doing like this weird ass shit and they're like, oh yeah, whatever, like it's fine. They put him in a sleep study at one point, but like that's not actually actively helping him. That's just like studying his behaviors. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll just say like some mild spoilers here, so if you don't want any spoilers, go ahead and skip ahead. But there's like one point where, like I said, weird shit's happening with this kid, and then they decide they need to have like a date night or whatever, so they have Lola's dad babysit for them, and he ends up falling down the stairs, cracking his head open. They come home and their little child is playing in the blood of his dead grandfather, and they're like, oh, that's weird. And then like a couple weeks later, Ian decides to go out and he's like, well, I can't take the kid, so I'll just get like a random teenager to babysit. I'm like, why? Like, if the last time you left this kid with a babysitter, that babysitter cracked his head open and died and the kid was in there playing with the blood, and you're just gonna leave him with some like random teenager? Also, before that, so after the death of the grandfather, then there's another incident where Ian is with one of his friends that has a kid and their kids are playing together, and then his kid like picks up this little girl and like lifts her above his head and throws her across the yard, like breaks her arm, and then he still is like, oh, that's weird, like whatever, it's like normal kid stuff, and then once again like leaves her with this like teenage girl to babysit. And I'm like how does that make any sense? Like, I get you don't like the kid, but like wouldn't you try, like even before the grandfather died, wouldn't you try to like get him into therapy because there was already some weird things happening, and then, you know, witnessing the traumatic death of his grandfather and like playing in his blood. Like, wouldn't you take him to like a therapist? Like, try to work that out and like not leave him with a random teenager to babysit? I don't know. So I feel like the characters could have been a little bit smarter, and I just wish that I got like a better ending and like a better explanation to things, and I wish the pacing was a little bit better. I'm gonna stop talking about this book now. Like I said, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. Like, it wasn't the absolute worst thing, and there was at least at some point I was enjoying it, so we're gonna leave it there. I am going to go to bed. I did start Rotten Tommy once I finished The Vile Thing We Created, but I only read like the first chapter because I want to take my time reading this, obviously, if I'm going to have a discussion with other people. So I will be continuing this read tomorrow, reading some of my nonfiction. I don't think I'll finish both of them tomorrow. It's the last day of the readathon, but I'm going to try to read what I can before the readathon is over. As usual, I apologize if you can hear children screaming outside, but welcome to the last day of the readathon. My tummy's hurting a little bit, but I'm going to read as much as I can. I started my last 2 books today, so, well, technically I started Rotten Tommy last night. I know I told you guys, I think I just read like the first chapter last night, and I didn't get much further into it today. I think I read like a couple more chapters, but I'm definitely intrigued so far. We have this main character who has just found a box within the walls of her home, and she has reason to believe that this box belonged to her parents, and inside of it are 3 VHS tapes, and they are wrapped up in a paper that turns out to be a missing child poster with a picture of her as a child on it. So I'm very, very intrigued so far. I probably won't talk about this one too much. This is going to be what I am, like, the majority of what I read tonight is going to be this book. But like I said, I don't want to talk about it too much because we are going to do like the live show for it. But my interest is piqued, so really, really excited to continue that one. I also started my nonfiction today, Behind the Horror, True Stories That Inspired Horror Movies. This one I also only read the first chapter, and this one also, like, I'm hooked right away. So each chapter goes through a different horror movie. So we start with a movie from 1931, and then we move up until the very last chapter brings us to 2019. So the movies that they talk about in here: M, A City Searches for a Murderer, Rope, Psycho and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Frenzy, The Exorcist, Jaws, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, The Amityville Horror, Poltergeist, A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Serpent and the Rainbow, The Silence of the Lambs, Scream, The Mothman Prophecies, Wolf Creek, The Conjuring, Annabelle and The Conjuring 2, The Witch and the Lighthouse. So I'm really, really excited, but this, okay, so the author of this, Dr. Lee Meller, it says he is a criminologist, lecturer, musician, and author of 7 books on crime, specializing in abnormal homicide. And I think it's really interesting because this is definitely like, he's talking about real life cases that inspired horror movies, whether it was heavily inspired or just kind of like a little bit vague, and in that way it's kind of like true crime as well. So I feel like it's just gonna be a really fun read. So the first chapter, like I said, was about M, A City Searches for a Murderer, which I've never seen or heard of, but he's basically talking about, he tells you like what the movie's about and then where the inspiration came from, and it was basically like multiple different German serial killers that I've never heard of before, and there were some absolutely disgusting things that I read about. I read this while I was eating lunch, first of all, and it's just kind of like true crime because he's talking about these serial killers and their murders that they committed and then how that kind of like inspired the movie. So I think this will be a really fun read. Once again, we get pictures in here. So we have pictures from the film that he's referencing, but then we also have some pictures of like the serial killers that he mentioned in that chapter. So I'm really, really excited to keep reading this one. I definitely like won't finish it before the readathon's over. Obviously this is the last night, but I'm just really, really excited to read this one now, and it's relatively short. My last 2 reads for the readathon are going very, very well. I'm about to go take a shower. I have to figure out something for dinner, and then, like I said, I'll probably be reading Rotten Tommy tonight, so I will see you guys later. Well, this was not quite the end of the readathon that I wanted, but like I told you guys, I wasn't feeling too well today. I don't even know why. Like, my stomach was hurting, and then I started to get a headache. My head is still hurting. I ended up taking a nap for like 25 minutes to see if that would help, and I think it helped a little bit, but then I didn't get as much reading done as I wanted to, and now it's pretty late, and I cannot stay awake any longer, but I managed to get 60% of the way through Rotten Tommy, and I am really, really enjoying it so far. As I already said though, I'm not going to talk too much more about this one because we will be doing the live show. So let's see. This week I read All Hallows, I read To Be Devoured, I read Cackle, The Vile Thing We Created, and then I got 60% of the way through Rotten Tommy, and then I started my other one. So not quite everything that I wanted to accomplish got accomplished, but it's been a very strange week, so there is always next time to achieve our goals. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you to everybody that participated in this. I've seen some people posting on Instagram and tagging me in different things and commenting on YouTube and letting me know what they're reading and if they are participating, and I do really appreciate that. Even if you popped in just to read one book, I really, really appreciate you. And that brings us to the end of the Ominous October Readathon. If you did participate, let me know what you read, if you had a favorite read for the week. And with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I will see you guys next time.